Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with this Tuesday guest, the Lumberjack. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing awesome. If the audience ever wants to know what you look like when we're doing a video that you don't want to do, it looks just like that.
Yeah, I don't want to do this one. I really don't, but
But
I
we
have
have to.
I have to. I have to reply to the audience. I got
Have to.
it probably wasn't 50, but it was more than 40.
Yeah.
I got 40 notes between direct messages, a couple of emails, a few texts about a particular YouTube channel that is saying we've had a 15% housing crash in the last 2 months. So I really didn't want to watch it, but you know, the audience wins. I asked you to watch it, so you watched it. There was, again, I have a whole page of notes here. I always want to start off with a positive.
Yes. I watched all 18 minutes or 15 minutes. I didn't hear anything that was positive
I don't have
correct or right. It was wrong.
Well, I guess the one thing I will say is you really saw at the end of the video that he was pretty proud of calling the housing crash. Because again, he admits he's been calling for a housing crash for 12 to 15 months.
2 years, almost 2 years. Yeah.
Almost 2 years. And he now feels vindicated.
Still wrong.
He feels vindicated because he says the housing market has collapsed 15% in the last 2 months.
Yep.
So everybody probably knows who we're talking about. I will not call him by his name. It's like Voldemort. You don't want to say his name. And or was it Beetlejuice? Yeah, you don't want to say Beetlejuice. And let's just talk about it. So again, I have a whole page of notes. And again, I did not want to watch this. This is only done because the audience asked.
Exactly. Yep.
So first and foremost, this channel is using Zestimates or Zillow.
Yes.
Estimate of value to call a housing crash.
Uh-huh.
And he's using Zestimates and list price to call a housing crash.
Right.
And he's using Zestimates list price in markets that go for 7 figures. And oh, by the way, they're in my backyard and I've lived in my area for 50 years. Yeah. So I know Alameda County. I know Santa Clara County. I know the places, San Francisco, that he was talking about.
Yep.
And there's nothing in that discussion that is even remotely close to accurate or interesting or proof point that he's right, that his housing crash call is correct. So I have a lot of thoughts, but I've been rambling and I'm frustrated and I'm annoyed and I'm trying not to swear. Which is very difficult when I get passionate. I sort of lose that. So I'm going to shut up for a minute and let you ramble.
All right. So all of the investors that watch this channel know a few truisms. One of the truisms, the Zestimate is never right. It's not ever right. It's not ever right. It's not even close. I actually am going to do a video. I just got a stack of appraisals. I'm going to do a video of that stack of appraisals versus what Zestimate says and versus what Ownerly says. Okay. I paid for Ownerly just to do that. Okay. So when we talk about this, the first truism is Zestimate is not right. Number one. Number two is he's basing an entire idea, an entire premise is based on that number being right. Again, faulty for any data scientist or any researcher is basing an opinion on one thing that you found. You're not good at what you do. The continued piece of that I would also say is, number one, we know estimates aren't really accurate. And number two, this is something that he also doesn't understand, which is strategy. When a market starts to decline or when a market starts to soften, decline from an interest perspective, not just from a price perspective. Largely what ends up happening is people will change strategies. The strategy being, I'm going to underprice everybody else out there by $50,000 or $100,000, and I'm going to have 100 people at my open house again, and it's going to drive the price up to where we want it to get to, because my only other option is price it at where I think it should be and then accept an offer in the ballpark, price it really low, drive a ton of traffic, have a bunch of people qualify out, and boom, I still get my 20% of people to pick from, and I'm going to get a highest and best out of 2 people. And I'm going to be able to work that number back and forth as hard as I possibly can. Like I just saw happen with a house in my neighborhood 4 weeks ago, listed for 575, sold for 642. All day long, we thought the house was worth about 6.25.
Yeah.
So he doesn't take into account the art of what we do. The fact is that there is human behavior.
Yeah, there's a couple of things I want people to point out. And it's actually funny. He shows this data because he shows where I live, where list price is routinely over 7 figures, and it's usually 1.5 or greater. Again, my backyard, not his. And then he showed some Midwest town where Zestimates was under list price, like 4%. But here's the deal. The market where I live, you have some homes that haven't been touched since the 1950s.
Correct.
And then you have some houses that have literally been bulldozed and built from scratch.
Correct.
Zestimates doesn't know any of that.
Nope.
Right. So the thing that I want people to realize about this kind of error in judgment is all real estate is local. And if you're playing in a market where the median home price is $1.5 million, you are going to have huge swings. And Zestimates is never going to be close because Zestimate takes actual data. Like Zestimates, again, I sold data. I sold software that used data lakes and I worked with data. I had data scientists report to me, right? So this was my world for 5 freaking years. I know data. So again, in the market of real estate that he's talking about and pointing out and claiming that he is such a genius and right is so, I mean, he's hurting people at this point.
He is. He's helping other people feel like, oh, thank God this finally happened. It's not happening in your neighborhood. Look at your local MLS. It didn't happen in your neighborhood. It's not happening anywhere.
Yeah. So again, Zestimates in a market where median prices are up that you have such a range of 1950s never touched to bulldozed and raised. Zestimates is never close. Right? He pulled up an example of a 2.2 at like 1.6.
Yeah.
I mean, you have no idea what's going on around that area. And again, Zestimates is wrong on the low end and the high end.
Both.
Right? It's just
100%.
If you need any proof that Zestimates is wrong, just go back to the fact they lost $500 million.
$500 million.
Because of their $500 million. Right. So here's the other here. He is using 2 data points that mean nothing about value. Zestimates, nobody should use them, especially in high dollar markets. There's just the swings are crazy. Second, list price. List price is nothing. Maybe it was a strategy of getting eyeballs. What do you want today in the Bay Area? You're trying to sell a $1.5 million flip. You are over your head. You need a buyer because your hard money cost is eating you alive. Right. Number 1 strategy is to list it ridiculously low, get all the eyeballs you can, pray for a bidding war, and see what happens. List price means nothing. On the other end, you have a bunch of wish pricing. I talk to agents all the time.
Yes.
My age doesn't get it. Get it. List price is not value. Zestimates is not value. What counts? Closings.
Sales price.
What counts? Closing. Only closings. Now to claim 15% price drop in 2 months, you are a moron. Real estate does not move that fast. Nope. Closings don't happen, generally speaking, in 60 days. Nope. To tell people you are right and that housing collapsed 15% in 2 months shows that you have that you either it's none of the outcomes are good. None of the outcomes.
You're a liar. You don't understand data.
I actually am starting. So initially, I thought he was doing this because he wants to get paid. After watching yesterday's video and watching that 30 or 45 seconds at the end where he felt vindicated, I'm like, holy cow, he believes this stuff.
He's a moron.
So I don't think he's a liar. I think he truly believes this stuff. Right.
I think that I suppose that's correct because I think it's the George Costanza line. It's not a lie if you believe it.
No, and I now, so for a long time, I thought he was a genius. I'm like, dude, you tapped into a vein. You're going to run that vein till it's dry. I now believe that maybe it started that way, but he's been so in this for a year, every video, that I think he believes it now. And again, I think he's wrong, but I don't think he's a liar. I think he truly believes it.
I think that, so Zestimate is so bad. I bought a house a year ago to flip.
Mhm.
I paid, or a year and a half ago, I paid 120 grand for the house.
Yep.
Right.
Mhm.
Zestimate had that house at $100,000 Zestimate until 3 months ago.
Mhm.
And they just upgraded it to 330, and it sold for 290 about over a year ago. This is how bad their data is.
Yeah,
Their
it's
data
just-
is not good.
No.
It is not actionable. What we always talk about on my other world, in my real job, when we
Mhm.
talk about automation
Yep.
and we talk about data, that data is occurring in that moment. And we give you a graphical representation of your data to
Yeah.
then make actionable decisions.
Mhm.
There is nothing that Zillow creates from a data perspective, largely speaking, that's actionable.
Yeah.
I would rather look at the Board of Realtors. I would rather look at any of these other outlets of data. Black Knight,
Yeah.
is that what it is? Black Knight, right?
It's awesome.
They're
It's closing. It's real data.
They are exactly. That is actual factual data. And these guys are data scientists and understand how this stuff works.
Oh, for sure.
It's
Yeah.
not somebody that was a failed underwriter for 7 years that's trying to bring you the news.
Yeah. And then the other point that I thought was really interesting is he's calling out foreclosures again.
Idiot.
It's so funny. We talked about this, I don't know, a year ago when it was 4.8 million. Now we're down to 600,000 and he's holding on to that 600,000. Oh, it's the 600,000 is going to be the inventory. It's going to come and shake up the market. Folks,
And again,
the
600,000 is 50,000 a month.
well, I mean,
That's
yeah,
nothing.
that's nothing. I mean,
It was 300,000, almost 300,000 a month for 3 years in 9, 10, and 11.
yeah,
Not 50,000 a month. That's nothing. And the market now is twice as big as it was then.
yeah. And again, if you're holding out hope for a foreclosure wave, you may have it in a couple very micro markets where it just got over its skis. So again, buy box, know your market.
Possible,
But that's the 600,000. Again, half of that is going to go the way of short sale or other reasons. And the other thing you got to realize about foreclosures is they don't come on the market at this. It's not going to be like 600,000 shows up on Monday.
Mhm.
Every market is different. Foreclosures in last time took over 2 years in most markets. So these will come on in drips and drabs.
That's
and I just think it's comical. 4.8 million, 4.2, 600,000, still a problem. It's still coming. Come on, dude.
It's just so not. Like, look at what the daily supply of that's Mike, that's a month's supply of houses being added to the market. And that's if it were all at once. Mike, even if it were all at once, we'd have a bonanza for like 60 days and then gone.
Yeah. So the last thing I actually circled on my notes, and I think I said it earlier, but I want to close on this. Anybody that tells you the housing market, the United States housing market collapses 15% in 2 months, you need to block that channel.
Yes.
The worst decline in the last 52 years when all the things were blowing up was 8.9% in a year. Now, if you want to say 15% crash in a market, I don't believe it, but I at least can say maybe. Big employer leaves, chemical leak, whatever. Yep. But if you're going to come on a channel and say the national housing market crashed 15% in 2 months, you're just wrong. I don't care what time it is.
Yeah.
It's not possible. So where can people find you?
Which channel should they block, Mike?
I'm not going to say. No, Voldemort, Beetlejuice. No, not happening.
You can catch me on Lumberjack Landlord on YouTube and Instagram, as well as my live stream 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. And then Dion picks us up on Tuesdays at 4 o'clock Pacific time. But that's always coming after Mike at 8 a.m. Pacific time on Saturdays.
You're good. So now I can throw away my notes. And folks, I really don't believe me when I say I never want to watch this channel.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it makes my skin crawl.
It does.
All right, guys, take care.
Thanks.